Okay, so I am driving currently to New Orleans to meet up with Jess. I could have sworn it was only an hour's drive. Luckily, I set off an hour and a half earlier. Well, an hour and a half for what I needed to give me an hour, which means I set off half an hour early. But I just sat there for just like 2 hours. And I know she's arriving at the destination, the car rental place to pick me up at 20 to 5, and I've just checked the start nav and it's like 5:15. And I'm like, shit, I'm late. But I stopped off in Mississippi for a lovely place for food. And they're all lovely. It was proper like bars where they're all talking about the snakes and the alligators that they shot at the weekend and stuff like that in the strongest Southern American accents I've ever heard in my entire life, which was just brilliant. Yeah, asking me where I was from, what I was doing, and talking about all the different types of guns they prefer and what their wives carry, all the good stuff. And I said, right guys, I'm gonna have to shoot off. I've gotta be in New Orleans to meet a friend. First of all, they did what everybody else has done and warned me not to stray off the beaten path, because apparently New Orleans is number one in the US at the moment. It's overtaken Chicago. It's overtaken Chicago. It's overtaken New York. It's overtaken LA. So, but I'll be with Jess and we'll stick to the beaten path. And as I was leaving, this guy was like, "Don't you all be, bad mouthing us folks from Mississippi now." And I just said, "I know, right? I'll just be like those gun-toting rednecks down there," and they all just sort of laughed and was like, "I know, right?" But it's kind of my deep southern US accent leaves a lot to be desired. But yeah, it was a great little place, great little people. Sat there, had a really nice chat about all the alligators they hunted and stuff like this. And this one guy was like, "Yeah, I went skinny dipping in this lake, and then the next day I'm down there going fishing. And I see this log, and then this log moves. I shit you not, it's 8.5 feet long. This gator just pops up out of nowhere. I was swimming in that lake just the day before." Well, obviously my accent's shit, but you get the idea. Yeah, it was really cool just to sit there and chat with all the locals, all talking about, "Oh, do you know such a body? You know such a body? I was hanging with him yesterday," and all that kind of stuff. And I was sort of like, I don't know this person you're talking about, and they were laughing. But yeah, obviously it's good fun. So 2 hours, feel really bad. I genuinely thought it was only an hour, and Jess literally just rang me and said, "I'm going to be there for 20 to 5. And I'm like, yeah, let me take me an hour. It's been 2 hours long to get there. Oh, that's pretty. There's the sea. And if y'all can see that, there we go. I'm driving through southern Mississippi. That sweet southern hospitality. And I'll tell you what, it's so true what they say about the South. Genuinely, there is such a thing as southern hospitality when it comes to the States, without a shadow of a doubt. When I was talking to the guy I stayed with last night, he's from Birmingham, 75 years old, really interesting guy, left Birmingham because of the racial tensions. His class, his graduating class was the last all-white class in Birmingham before segregation ended. He was out there on the front lines protesting and stuff like that. That was really cool to listen to all of his stories about how his dad was like the number one employer of blacks in those days. So he grew up around blacks, so he didn't really, there was no racism where he was concerned. And he said he got himself into some situations. Just one night, he was out, just talking to this black guy, a couple of black guys, and he said, "Oh, let's go somewhere else. Let's go to an after party." So they brought him round to his, and he was the only white guy there, and they were very unimpressed that this guy had brought somebody white to this party. during segregation. Like, it was a whole thing. He said he nearly didn't make it out there alive. He said at his high school was like the main high school, you know, when you see on the news, in the history books and stuff, and then in the documentaries about how they, you know, one or two black kids would join and there'd be riots outside, because nobody wanted the blacks in there. He said that was his high school, and he was sort of graduating. He was quite old, you know, when all that stuff was happening. He said this one time that the protesters and stuff like that were outside protesting integration. So basically the entire football team and him and a couple of other people at this white school formed a barricade. He said nowadays, it's a big liability, and he said thinking back it's probably really stupid, but basically formed a wall with their bodies and barricaded to stop these like segregationists from getting into the school and harming these black kids. So that was kind of interesting to listen to. So yeah, Jess, I'm sorry I'm late. My bad. But I'm on my way. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to mention as well, what was really interesting. So I went to this bar last night with my Couchsurfing host, Harrison, not Ford. He was saying it's called Floribama, and it's really, really cool place. Really cool place. Live music, country music, just a guy and a guitar, everybody up and dancing, really great vibes. Anyway, I was talking to one of the employees right at the end, and I said, "Oh, you know, you're from Alabama," and he, because I said most of the people in there were tourists and stuff, and I said, "Oh, I didn't, you know, you don't think of Alabama as a tourist destination, particularly in the South." And then he went, "You're not in Alabama, you're in Florida." I'm like, "No, I'm not." He's like, "No, really, you're in Florida. Google it." And I typed it in to Google, like I pulled up Google Maps, and yeah, we were the reason it's called Floribama is for Florida and Alabama, because it is on the state line, and there's, you know, a sign outside saying welcome to Sweet Home Alabama and stuff. So where we were sat in the bar was technically on the Florida side, so we'd cross state lines. I was like, I'm sure there's a state in between Alabama and Florida, and he's like, nope, they border with each other. And I was like, I did not know that. So yeah, I went into Florida without even realizing it, not even knowing. But yeah, it was a really good night, chatting to a couple of the other locals from Alabama. And even Harrison said as well that like a lot of people hear the word Alabama and won't even go there because they think KKK, racism, white supremacy and stuff like that. This one guy said he lived out in Arizona for a while, and the minute people found out he was from Alabama, he was treated really differently, which was it's a shame really, because it's a great place. The people are just so welcoming and so friendly. They do have that southern hospitality thing. They said there's obviously a lot of, not necessarily in the areas that I went, but I'm sure if you go to like parts, I'm sure you will find it, you know, the racism and stuff, but it's certainly not in my experience. Everybody seemed integrated. Alabama's got really high black population, so everybody's just going on living their best lives. I was going to say something else as well. I can't remember what it was. I remembered what it was. Shit, I've just forgotten again. What the hell? Oh yeah, so Harrison was saying when he was younger, he had a job, I can't remember what it was, I think it was like a mailman or something, and because he had long hair at the time, it wasn't just like blacks that people were prejudiced against, it was anybody that was different, and hippies were getting some real stick back in the 60s, so he wore this wig to work, because most people just, they wouldn't hire you if you were black, if you were hippie, and even after the segregation ended, quite a few of them got away with it by turning, like the public swimming baths and stuff, they turned it to private membership only, where you had to pay a fee, and they could put on it a whites only because it was private club, and you could still discriminate back then if it was a private club as opposed to, you know, publicly and stuff like that. But he said he used to wear this wig to hide his hair when when he worked there, and a lot of people had no idea that he had long hair. And he worked there for like 2 or 3 years, and on the final day, when he went in to collect his final pay slip, he went in there without his wig on. And he said the looks he got from people, like from that point on, a lot of his colleagues who he'd worked with for years, who got on really well with him, knowed him really well, they stopped being friends with him. They treated him differently after that, purely because he had long hair. And he said that he got a small inkling of what it must have been like to be black back in those days. But yeah, that's the reason he left Birmingham, because of the prejudice and stuff. But it makes you wonder, like, all the people of that age that I've spoken to since I've been in Alabama, all have similar stories with regards to segregation and how they were against it and all this kind of sort of stuff. And, you know, like, I 100% believe Harrison, but then that guy's looking at me, he knows I'm recording, in the car next to me. Shit, forgot my train of thought. But how many of them are being honest is my question. How many of them are just lying? I mean, obviously people are entitled to change their opinion, especially given something that happened in the 60s. Absolutely, people are entitled to change their opinion. But the KKK, you know, it's still active. It's still very much active, and a lot of these members are probably in their 60s, 70s, who are around and remember segregation, you know? So, but Harrison said, I mean, he knew what was going on and he'd heard about the KKK and stuff, but he never really saw a hood. He never really saw that side of things when he was growing up. But yeah, interesting. Right, oh, now it's saying 20 past 5 instead of 5:15. Fuck's sake, I'm going to be well late. Sorry, Jess.